Welcome to the Grow Renaissance podcast. Let's nourish the world.
All right, welcome back to Pasture Prime Time, a Grow Renaissance podcast series. Today, we're joined by two wonderful guests, some special guests actually, as we continue our discussions around food and nutrition, specifically how we continue to think about nutrition, the health components that continue to plague us, but also the wonderful things that are happening out there that continue to heal us and set us on a better course than we're on today. For many of you in the audience that have been listening and following along, you know that I like to have real conversations that actually get to the heart of what food and health really mean. We do a lot of work at Grow around ensuring that the producer is the hero of the story again, because they're the ones putting the blood, sweat, and tear into what we're eating. Really pointing the finger at the agri-food, the messy middle, as I say, supply chain, in ensuring that we're not over-processing our foods. But the conversation needs to continue all the way down to your plate, and then even further into how that's actually affecting our human body, brain, soul, lymphatic nodes, and cellular makeup, and the organs, and all the good things going on with that. So today, join me, no relation, is Amanda Smith from Thunderbird, and Robert, Dr. Pomahac. And sorry, I never checked where you're located. I believe you're in Colorado.
No. Now I spent 20 plus years in Los Angeles, and now I'm in Park City, Utah.
Fantastic.
I moved from the beach to the mountains.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
We have some colleagues not too far from you in Sundance, as part of the Grow community there. So
nice.
Yeah, that's great.
Down the street. We've been there multiple times. Actually, my wife is head of marketing for Sundance.
Okay.
Yeah.
No way.
Amazing.
Yes. Small world. Yeah, I'll be heading out that way, Robert, in just about 6-7 weeks here. We have a little bit of a get together. Anyway, great area. We'll get into that in a second. Before we get any further, one of the reasons that I brought both Amanda and Robert together is they've had some connection in the past. And Amanda, I thought maybe you could share a little bit about your journey and your story, how you met Robert, and then Robert, I'd love to hear about your background.
I would love to share that. Thank you so much, and thank you for having us on today. So I'm Amanda Smith. I started a company called Thunderbird, so I do international high-end networking and business development. It's such an honor to be working with the Grow team, and I've had the pleasure and honor of working with Dr. Pomahac at his facility when he had it in Beverly Hills, and not only was I able to be on the team where we were helping others to reset their health, a lot of combat athletes actually, which as you can imagine, have some very unique and can be some pretty devastating type of injuries. And so to be able to help them to stay on track and keep their career successful was a true honor. But this man here, Dr. Pomahac, helped me in ways that I had to be able to share and give him some kudos here. So I had broken my neck when I was a kid, 2 traumatic brain injuries, probably at least 12 concussions from my own sports. And the approach that he took was so phenomenal, getting to the root causes, the structural, misalignments and things that nobody had ever really looked at that level. Like the diagnostics, if I can just say,
Yeah.
You're going to be able to go into, how that really all looked from your side. But he took a look at things that other people just didn't even really give the attention and the care to. And so while working at his facility in Beverly Hills, I was able to have consistent treatment that sorted things out that nobody had ever done. And so I can really say he was such a key factor in my recovery. I had doctors saying that I'd be fully disabled, and to prepare for that I would potentially not be able to walk or talk or work, and certainly not be able to think and make sense. And I talk and make sense, hopefully, for a living now. So, doctor, thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything that you did, everything that you set up, not only for all the patients, but for this little lady over here. I'm able to do what I'm doing today because of that. So it's a true honor.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And thank you for trusting me, right? I mean, that's part of the patient-doctor relationship is the trust factor. And we eliminate the trust factor by showing you data and statistics, and numbers don't lie, right? It's the universal language. Yeah.
It's a real honor to be here with both of you guys today on this journey that we're now on together.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that, Amanda, and that's wonderful. And Robert, I'd love to hear a bit about your journey as well, and what took you from the coast to the mountains, and but all the wonderful things you're really doing in the nutrition health side of life.
So I think start from when I was a kid. I grew up mostly in Canada. I kind of traveled all over the world, but I ended up playing high-end competitive hockey and soccer. And then through that journey, you get injuries mainly in hockey, and you go through the route of doctors and therapists and experts. And looking back at it now, you don't really get any answers. You don't get any proof, right? So I think because English was not my first language, I gravitated towards numbers.
Mm.
My undergrad was in bioengineering, biochemistry, physics, kinesiology. And then I went to chiropractic college, and even that was mostly philosophy based. And that's great and all, but I think numbers was my calling. So in 2003, I started working with a group of researchers that have now been published over 400 times in the area of biomechanics, spine and physiology, or function, right? So when I started Max Health Medical in 2003, it grew to 25 employees, 10,000 square feet, 3,000 procedures a month. The reason that we were sort of mostly the last hope in many occasions was because we told people the truth, right? We looked at body, brain, behavior, and biochemistry, right? And we used objective analytics to determine why they were having the problems they were having, and then based off that, create a solution. The number one money expenditure in America when it comes to healthcare is lower back pain. Unfortunately, it's mono-driven, right? You go see a physical therapist, they do this. You go see a chiropractor, they do this, right? You go see a surgeon, they want to do surgery. But we looked at analytics, and the number one reason people had, or a major contributing factor why people had lower back pain, is because they were overweight or they didn't have any muscle tone.
Mm-hmm.
And because of my background of lifting weights and being into fitness and health and playing sports and being around athletes, we told people the truth. Listen, this is where your body fat is at. This is where your lean muscle mass is at. What are you putting in your body, right? And so they had to own it. And I think when it comes to a crisis state, when people are in chronic pain and want to get out of chronic pain, and you're giving them the biomechanical aspects of it, but then you're looking at the behavior, the biochemistry, the nutrition, that was a drawing force of the truth and the acceptance of, I want to do something about that. So I think we kind of got into the back end of understanding nutrition, not because of the future of cardiovascular issues or dementia, Alzheimer's, I'll mention that in a second, but right in front of me, there's someone that has been in chronic pain or acute pain from a car crash, has gone to see 5, 6 different doctors, was told one piece of the data, tried that, didn't work. And so they found us, and we went over a complexity of who they were as a person. And so when we had that BIA testing, for men, we had hormone replacement therapy. But even in that sector of the market, you go and see your doctor, you get a shot. Great, but that's not going to work unless you change your diet. That's not going to work unless you lift weights, right? Or medical weight loss. Well, that's okay. It's a pharmaceutical approach, and that's also okay. But what are you putting in your body? Are you exercising? Are you sleeping? Lifestyle. And when you look around, it's unfortunate that 75% of our adult population is overweight. You can't capture them unless the fear worsening. And the easiest way that I was able to capture them in understanding, listen, part of your problem is you don't have any muscle and you're completely overweight. What are you putting in your diet, right? And so then we allow them to have part of our treatment plan, right, was to offer nutritional counseling, right? We had a fully operational gym. Do you want to go learn how to exercise? So we started off with the basics, and we gave people an option of what they wanted to do, right? Did they want to tip their toes into the ocean, or do they want to go surfing, right? So that was my approach when it came to introduction of nutrition, not because of, what's going to happen in the future or what's on my scale, because that's self-motivating. I get it for a lot of people, but that doesn't work in my area. My area was they're in chronic pain. They can't figure it out. Here's your truth. What do you want to do?
Right.
Did that for 20 plus years. And
I love
it worked, right? I mean, we changed people's lives. Even like Amanda mentioned, when it came to the athletes, right? Like these are top-notch MMA fighters. We developed a plan called 6 weeks out, you're in. So for 6 weeks, we took care of these guys on the house. Their payback to us was give us some tickets and put their patch on their shorts. But just talking about nutrition and exercise and fitness and simple biomechanical analyses that help them understand why they should be doing what and what they're doing incorrectly and why their brain wasn't functioning and how their brain-body connection wasn't working, and even analyzing leaky gut, leaky brain. We had the ability to analyze that through a company out of California, right? Once you have the data in front of their head and they realize that they're toxic, then you can put them on a treatment plan, including nutrition, supplements, vitamins, right? And then you have a post-analysis test and say, this is actually working, right? So the proof was in the analytics.
It was
I love
amazing
that.
when I got to see my results, the before and after. I was screwed up when I got to see you, and I had
Yeah.
been working with other doctors for a while. And not to say that there hadn't been good improvements with certain things on that, but that approach that you gave with all of the different factors was phenomenal. And then to be able to
Yes.
see the actual improvements was amazing. It gave hope.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing to see you function today, Amanda, given the story that you've told me and what you just shared. So, a lot of kudos to you, Robert. Fascinated on two things. One, whereabouts in Canada do you play hockey?
So I grew up in Southern Ontario,
Okay.
in a city called Hamilton, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I'm actually sitting in Toronto today, so like spit
yeah,
throw from that. Yeah.
yeah. So unfortunately, lots of fighting, and I also grew up as a bouncer, so lots of fighting there.
Yeah.
So I think I started my clinic because of me. I was having issues, nobody could resolve them. I wasn't given any proof. I couldn't understand it. And then all my buddies that were 30, 40 at that age were having, other types of problems that doctors couldn't figure out. They wanted to do surgery. So we took a look at, the biomechanics. That's where my specialty was, applied neurobiomechanics. We could understand how the brain and the body were talking to one another, right? By looking at functional MRIs, right? Movement
Hmm.
MRIs, understanding how there's ligament stability. We developed a regenerative medicine department. You have to remember, your skull weighs about 10, 12 pounds, right? And then your vertebrae are about 6 ounces, the amount of a pencil.
Hmm.
Between your skull, your first and second, third bones, they're only connected by a ligament that fail or become unstable at about 6 miles per hour. So how
Okay.
often in your life do you have any type of trauma that's 6 miles per hour?
Yeah.
In hockey, probably all the time. In
All the
football,
time.
all the time.
Yeah.
Falling off your bike, skiing. I mean, when you're in college and you
Snowboarding,
fall off your bike.
boxing.
Yeah, boxing, right? So people had forgotten that there was attachments there, right? So we looked at, what's happening here. So back in 2005 or so, I was the first person to have something called digital motion X-ray. We can look at your spine in motion, right, to determine what's happening between your skull and your first two bones. And in there lives a lot of important things, like the cranial nerves, blood supply to the brain, and the vagus nerve that controls heart, right, lungs, and gut, right? So when you think about what we discovered, when you have a vagus nerve interruption because of whiplash or concussion, that's going to affect the vagus nerve. And so when we
Hmm.
work with functional medicine doctors, they focused on the gut. But if you don't fix the communication from the brain to the body through the vagus nerve, then that's step two of the correction.
Right.
So then, great, we have this information, then what do we do with it? And in about 2017, we were lucky to meet a doctor, Dr. Adele Harrison, who's also an American Canadian Middle Eastern guy who has been in regenerative medicine for 30 years, right? And about that time, stem cells came around, but there was a lot of lies in that world. It was the wild,
Mm.
wild west, So what we were doing is we were looking at PRP injections, centrifuging your blood, pulling it out of your body, understanding the components of your blood, putting it back into your neck, right? And this was not being done. I mean, a couple doctors, one guy in Florida, one guy in New York were doing this, but nobody anywhere in the West Coast. One guy in Colorado. So we started doing pre and post x-rays, digital motion x-rays, and MRIs after doing 3 sets of PRP injections, right? Just to look what was going to happen and figuring out and then analyzing biometrics again to figure out the reduction of movement and then analyzing gut health and bloating and digestion, right? And improvements in sleep and heart, right? All those things started changing, not because we did anything to the gut. We just looked at, I am an expert in spine biomechanics. We have people in the regenerative medicine world. Let's fix this. And then our nutritional doctors, our functional medicine doctors, you go do what you're doing, and then let's combine the therapies to make sense of like, I'm going to handle this, you do this. Now what do you seek? And not surprising, but surprising, they're having major improvements in their testing, right? Subjectively, the patients were feeling better, more energy, loss of bloating, gut health, improvements in muscle tone, improvements in sexual function. So it was an eye opener, right, for us to look at
Huge.
different parameters of how to handle health, strictly from how the brain talks to the body and how the body talks to the brain.
Dr. Delphi
Yeah.
did my PRP. I think I had 12 injections down my neck, wrist, everything on the right side, wrist, elbow, ankle. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Helps a lot.
So I'm really curious. I mean, we hear a lot today about, and that makes so much sense to me, by the way, and it's great to see the strides that you've made there. But I'm really curious today. So we've got this flipped inverted pyramid on the food side. We're talking a lot about gut health these days. In fact, myself, I thought I had IBS for the longest time, and until I just figured out that I was eating the wrong things and I wasn't doing the right movements. But we hear about whole foods, and then on the other side of that, we hear about the need for creatine in our diets as an athlete in particular. Brain function, Alzheimer's, the connection between the head and the body. And there's a bit of a disconnect between some of, at least I'm finding in some of the discussions I'm having, a bit of disconnect around what types of foods versus the type of activities that you're doing, more on the athletic side. So high rocks racers, CrossFitters, skiers, those are the people that I've been talking to as of recent. And maybe you could just talk a little bit from your perspective about those components without priming it too much. Yeah, love to hear your thoughts there.
So I've worked with, right now I currently work with a lot of NHL players, AHL players, et cetera, et cetera. And so I don't step into those areas of nutrition so much. I do give guidance because we can have that discussion. But once you have analytics and data and looking at it from a different perspective, you got to remember, nobody looks at the spine. No one looks at analyzing the brain in terms of understanding detection, decision-making, detection, anticipation, right? So we do know that creatine makes a difference and nutrition makes a difference. But do we have any type of objective measurement where we can say, okay, here's our objective measurement. Go do nutritional counseling or supplementation, and then we're going to have a back-end analysis, right? From my understanding, it's difficult, right, from a placebo randomized control trial evaluation process. What we do know is we can objectively evaluate brain, right, autonomic nervous system, spine, and function. So body, brain, biochemistry, and behavior, right? Behavior is more subjective. But based upon that, then we can objectively analyze those four factors and then see the compulsory or additional components of what you're doing, right? But when it comes to exercise, for example, we've worked currently with quite a few mogul skiers and slalom skiers. And they looked at G-forces, right? So when you accumulate about 30 Gs of G-force, you're starting to get brain fog. Well, is it the G-force of the skull and the brain fog? Or is it the whiplash? And a concussion occurs at about a G-force of 20 miles per hour. Whiplash is about 5 miles per hour, G-force related. So are you getting 20 miles per hour pressure on the head when you're going down the mountain in slalom? Probably not, right? But are you getting 5 or 6? Yeah, right? So, okay, you have the data of the G-forces, right? That's going to affect the brain. But what do you do to fix it? Right? You just tell them to rest, right? The common things that we hear from concussion experts is rest, et cetera, or do you fix the connection from the brain to the body, right? Do you look at the spine biomechanics? Do you look at cardiopulmonary respiratory function that's affected by the thoracic area? So I don't get too much into the nutritional component, except for what I do for myself. In the last, probably I'd say 5 years, maybe since I moved to Utah, I've definitely changed what I've been eating. I've gone to a high protein diet. I've been eating way more animal fats, beef, pork. Before I used to kind of hide away from it because obviously back in the day we were told beef was bad for us, fat was bad for us. And to be honest with you, I'm turning 53 this year and I'm probably physically in the best shape of my life in terms of recuperation. Supplements aside, I've been taking creatine for, since it wasn't around, but when it tasted like crap. Yeah, I think, still the old approach of nutrition is dogma, right? I think, a while back I met with the head trainer of an NHL team here, and just his approach is stuck 20 years ago. So even at the elite of the elites, you're getting information from people that aren't validated on proof, right? What objective tests are you running to prove that what you're implementing for these athletes is actually working? Right? So that's a problem. And I think even in the upper echelons of athletes, that has to change, right? So when I work with my, pro hockey players, I have that data. I help them understand where their risk potentials are, why they shouldn't be doing these ballistic exercises currently because they're not in a balanced state, right? So if you're working with these athletes and you don't have that, you don't even know what you're doing, right? There's a higher potential of having that injury, right? And so why do that? It's because they don't measure. Right? If you don't measure, you don't know if you're getting better. So blood testing is super important. So, when we were in my office, we did leaky gut, leaky brain evaluations. Why do we want to do that? We did allergy testings. Like maybe part of the problem that you're having health issues is because of what you're putting in your body, like you just found out, right? But that was about 20
And
years
I was
ago.
allergic to corn.
Yeah, that was
I used
20
to
years
wake
ago.
up feeling like my neck was broken again. It would freeze so badly. I would literally wake up, open my eyes, tears would start streaming down my face. Because if you've ever moved your neck too fast and it like rolls and hurts like hell and freezes, every single morning I'd wake up that way. And it was because of corn. And you guys figured that out. Cut that out?
That was one of the factors, right? It's like,
Absolutely.
why do you feel bloated? I mean, you go to your gut doctor, or like like happened to you, Neil, right? And he's like, you got IBS. I'm like, okay, that's a symptom, but why am I having it? What's causing this? Like, it just came out of nowhere. Part of your problem is you probably had some type of whiplash or concussion in the past that's affected your vagus nerve, that interrupted your spinal cord, that caused a bypass into your spinal cord, that caused an inflammation factor that's now affecting your acetylcholine and other transmitters in your body, your neurotransmitters, because of the whiplash that's affecting your gut, right? But we're not fixing the gut whatsoever, and we're not taking that test to look at the gut because I'm not a gut expert. But I'm saying the spine plays a role. Let me fix this. Functional medicine doctor, nutritionist that was on our team, because listen, it's got to be a comprehensive treatment approach. You go do what you're doing.
Yeah.
But the catch was they're in chronic pain. The catch is they're overweight, right? And that's worked for us for 20 years. And then I transitioned, from Los Angeles into Utah. And now we've dug even deeper into it, right? So now we're looking at genetic predispositions. So I've been fortunate enough to work with the University of Utah and BYU with a neurobiologist that specializes in cognitive decline, cognitive function, right? So Alzheimer's, dementia, and even now we're looking at CTE, right? So from a biomechanical perspective, if you're not getting blood supply and oxygen supply to your brain, that's going to diminish your ability to heal, right? If you're not getting neurological input to the brain, that's going to be a problem. But the interesting thing that we found about him is that he attended a seminar in Japan, and the biggest thing from the pharma world wasn't about the pharmaceutical approaches to cognitive issues. It was looking at nutrition. So even big pharma, big tech are looking at, like, what can we do to prevent or reduce the potential of the people that are already having dementia, Alzheimer's? What can we do to help the functional approach when it comes to healthcare, right?
Yeah.
So now you see different hospitals that aren't feeding junk in their hospitals, which you're probably aware of. They're actually feeding nutritious food, right? Why when you go to a hospital, which, when my wife was pregnant, we went in there. I'm like, this is the stuff you're serving us? Like, come on, what are you doing?
Nothing with nutrition, like garbage.
Yeah. No, that's so interesting to hear. And it is great to hear that, big industry, because I think big industry, hey, look, I point fingers at them all the time, whether it's big ag, big food. I always like to come with a solution. I feel like I have solutions today where I can point a finger and then say, hey, I've got something to talk about. But they get a lot of rap. So it is great to hear that nutrition is coming into that conversation. But I really like what you're saying, Robert, about, being acutely aware of a more holistic healing plan or body awareness indicators, and the importance of spine. I've been doing a lot of high rocks racing. I got drunk with Kool-Aid of high rocks and, gotten into it and challenged myself. And for that, I do a lot of weightlifting. And I've been eating nose to tail bison, the organs and bison meat, and, just really trying to really pay attention to that. About 2 weeks ago, I was doing some squats just on the rack, and the bar was rested on my neck, and I was almost immobilized for about a week. And, it's very interesting to me hearing everything you're saying, how something so simple that we don't take into consideration, the ligaments that go between our brain and our spine. And there's, I don't think about it until I'm injured. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, this is everything. Like, if I lose mobility there, I can't row, I can't run properly, I'm not going to be able to compete. And I did exactly what everyone told me to do, which is rest and don't be mobile. And I didn't seem to be getting better. And so I doubled down on just slow rehabilitation therapies right back at the gym, and, nothing around the neck, but being more mobile. And I found that I recovered a bit faster, and I wasn't paying attention. I didn't talk to a doctor. I sort of went against the grind for what everyone was telling me. Even the trainers at the gym were kind of like, should you actually be here? But with proper diet and sort of just being a little more mobile and really sort of paying attention. And I don't know what you think about biohacking, but somebody gave me one of those vagus nerve electronic stimulators. Yeah, stimulators. And I was using that and I don't know if it was placebo or not, but that sort of brought me back to like, oh, things aren't hurting anymore. The combination of those three. Maybe you could share your thoughts, Robert and Amanda. I'd love your thoughts too on this world of biohacking as it relates to some of the things you're doing, because I know it's I hear a lot of athletes talking about it, red light therapies and, some of the simple things that we've heard about for
Red
years.
light therapy.
Okay, there you go.
Oh my gosh. So when I was back when I was working with you, Doc, I don't know if you remembered or ever saw this, when it was like the day was done, I was legitimately like running out the door because then I drove to the dojo to train. And I'd always get there at like 6 o'clock when the class started, or like 2 to 5 minutes late. But I would go train for like 2 hours. I was doing Muay Thai, I was doing boxing, I was doing different things. But I wake up and I'd hurt so bad. You have to like talk yourself into moving, and so you flop your body out of bed in one movement. But I started doing red light at that time. It got rid of like 70% of the aches and pains for me. I was more flexible, I was sleeping better, and then I noticed it also, made your skin look better, so bonus there too. Red light has been a huge one for me. I try to do it at least, 4 to 5 times a week. I have a panel at home.
So Robert? When you look at your story, right, when you're doing squats and all of a sudden you hurt your neck, and then you're just kind of guessing along the way, and then you got some guessing assistants, and then like shouldn't be here, and then people said don't do squats, and they don't put the bar there, and blah 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 blah. Right? It goes back to why, right? When you think about biohacking, if you can internally understand how the human body can process information at a faster pace with less information, isn't that biohacking? Like, how fast can your brain talk to your body, and how fast can your body talk to your brain? How fast, if you weren't in an inflammation state, would you need all the things you're talking about? So right. If your unit, right, isn't functioning properly, then you have to do additional things even more, right? Like the red light therapy. But what if you're no longer in a neurological inflammation state? What if your autonomic nervous system wasn't constantly in a sympathetic state? What if your somatic system was optimally performing, which means your brain is telling your body to do a squat, the nervous system has to get to your legs, then your legs have to get back to your brain, and you did a squat. What if that communication is faulty or reduced without even knowing it? Then your ability to perform is going to be reduced. Not because you're not going to the gym, but because neurologically, there's not the capacity to fire those nerves, that fire those muscles that process properly. So when you look at biohacking, everything in the biohacking world is external. Go do red light therapy, go do cold plunges, go eat nutritional foods. But if your unit doesn't have the ability to process at its high optimal performance, then all the things you're doing for it are at reduced capacity. So once again, my biohacking is, where is my spine, right? Is my spine communicating to my brain in terms of a biomechanical proper position, ideal position? If it is, then I'm able to process information at a faster pace. My brain can function, process faster. Decisions, detections, anticipations faster. My muscle system can process faster, right? So I can become stronger. So I worked with quite a few bodybuilders when I was at Gold's Gym, and this is kind of tied into your thing. And then worked with guys that were past their peak in their 40s. And the biggest thing they talked about is our legs can't maintain the same size. Why? They're still lifting weights, they're still on their supplements, they're still doing all their things. And then also their chest was becoming less prominent, right? So when you take a look at neurologically what controls your legs, it's your lumbar spine, right? So you take a look at the compression or lower back problems, they're having lumbar asymmetries. So the lower back curve is supposed to be 40 degrees. Your tailbone is supposed to be 40 degrees. So you go from one curve to the other, right? So think about the way these guys were squatting, like getting all the way down, pushing all the way up. That was causing torsion factors and pressure and biomechanical abnormal loading, putting pressure on the disc, putting pressure on the nerve, putting pressure on the facet, so the back part of the vertebrae, then reducing how that nerve was able to function. So it didn't matter how much they were working, their muscles and their legs couldn't keep up to the same pace of where they were because of all that compression. Their nervous system that made their muscles go was compromised.
All right.
And then for the chest, it's also the mid part of the neck, right? And so in whiplash effects, you have something called a coupling pattern. So C5, C6, the middle part of the neck, gets whiplash, gets in a reverse state, right, in a kyphotic curve. That causes abnormal loading, that causes arthritis, that causes degeneration. And so that nerve that controls the chest is also compromised. So you're not giving the somatic input into that nerve that controls that muscle to allow it to develop or grow.
All right.
So it doesn't, unless you understand this information, right, unless you understand where your neck biomechanics are, right? Is it in the 42-degree curve? Is your thoracic area in the 44-degree curve? Where is it where it's supposed to be? If we're looking at you from a functional perspective, Are you shifted to the right, to the left, right? Is your posture off? Are you putting more pressure on your right foot versus your left foot? And then you wonder why your hip is bothering you or why you're shifting because you're not even aware of it. Like these are all the things that we look at static data and then dynamic data to help you as an athlete or any athlete or person understand, okay, where's your potential risk? And then instead of avoiding it or saying you shouldn't be here, how do we fix the biomechanics to take the pressure off the nervous system that improves your mobility so you can go back and do it?
I love it. I love it.
Ensuring the traction and decompression
Yeah.
and all
Yeah.
the
So then we
things.
have to apply the techniques, which, is the biomechanical changes. Before we got into multi-movement patterns for our patients, right? So restorative movement therapy, we had to analyze simple posture, right? From the front, from the side. What do we see in this posture? So then we had something called mirror imaging exercises to improve their postural faults, right? If you have upper cross syndrome, forward head posture, and you go do something, you're still having that posture. And then you're going to increase the stress in the gym, then you injure yourself, maybe not now, but down the future, and you're wondering why. And then you go see a therapist, and they don't even analyze how you sit and stand. I'm like, great, you get 2 hours of therapy a week, and for the rest of your week, you're spending 16 hours sitting and standing in a stressed position, and nobody even analyzed that. I'm like, you're taking one step forward and 4 steps back.
Yeah.
Right. And then
Isn't that the
you get
truth?
these Instagram trainers that do all these crazy exercises. I'm like, okay, let's analyze if you're in a whole body neutral state. And if you're not, and you're doing single movement patterns or unilateral movement patterns, but you have abnormal loading on the right side, that right hip, that right knee, that right shoulder is going to become problematic. I can guarantee you. But you keep doing this stuff, and then all of a sudden you're playing hockey, and I get a phone call. It's like, yeah, my right knee just blew out, and I should have listened to you. I'm like, yep. Right. So the basics, right? Like you said, eating healthy foods. I mean, that's not that difficult, right?
It really.
It really isn't. You know. I mean, I have 2 kids. I'm gonna go into a different side. I have 2 kids that are 12 and 14, right? Like, think about the 14-year-old turning 14. I mean, he's in the puberty state right now. Like, what's his basal metabolic rate? Like, how much energy is he expending just to hit puberty and to grow, right?
Yeah.
So do we even look at energy out versus energy in? Do we look at sleeping? No. I mean, my kids are mini robots. Like, I take focus on what they're putting in their body, what they're sleeping, how much protein they're getting in their body, how they're stimulating their nervous system, where their spine is at, right? There's a reason why they're strong and healthy and smart. It's because I look at their spine, I look at their function. They're part of my research. We look at their brain, right? But, do parents allow their kids to eat enough energy, right? Or do they put them into too many sports? Do they forget about sleep? Do they forget about having protein? Are they eating cereal in the morning? I'm like, there's no cereal in my office. There's no cereal in my house. There's no junk in my house.
Good.
Like, they can have
Good.
cookies once in a while, but like this morning they had bacon and eggs. Oh my God, bacon and eggs. No, they're eating that stuff all the time.
Yeah. That's amazing. One of the things I mentioned, I wear this and some of these wearables, but the Whoop is
Yeah, WAP, yeah.
just
Or
it's
Whoop,
been a
is that
game
what it is?
changer on my sleep. I say Whoop. I don't know if that's a Canadian version of WAP
Yeah.
but yeah, Whoop.
I think you're right. I think I used to have one of those and I don't wear it anymore. But yeah, I've done all that stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a person that wants numbers. The more numbers I have, the better I can understand what the hell's happening to me.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
how simple is that to wear?
I don't even think about it, right? I mean,
No.
because a watch, you look down at it, this, you just wear it, and then you look
Yeah.
at the app when you want to and figure it
Yeah.
out. But the correlation between what I eat, my sleep, how much I've worked out, my stress levels, that all affects like all the stats on there. And so I was at a conference for the last few days, and I ate unhealthily just because that was the only thing that was available at the hotel on the conference. And I noticed that in my sleep. I was like, how come I'm in the red zone? And then I was correlating that to what I ate, my stress levels when I was there. I didn't get a workout in. And, of course, my stats just went down. I was like, it's just a clear indicator to me that I've got to be better when I go to conferences. You find better food or go to a grocery store, find a hotel with a better gym or a gym.
Yeah.
But, continue to do the things because I don't want to be way down in the red. And I felt like crap this morning. Like it was just like digging to like motivate myself to do anything. And that was all because of 2 days of getting off track.
But
the
you
stats
had
showed
the
it.
but you had the analytics that allowed you to understand why you felt that way,
Yeah.
right? So you can imagine in
100%.
my world of professional athletes, these doctors are just guessing. Like they're just guessing and guessing and guessing and have no comprehension of of why. So, for example, why does one person have a concussion and that lasts a long time, and one person has a concussion that they go away, right? So, through our neurobiologists, we can gather spit, look at their predispositions, look at their cognitive function, and then we can determine whether or not that athlete, right, is in a predisposition state of developing CTE, dementia, Alzheimer's, 50 years in the future. So now we're looking at 14-year-old kids and saying, okay, if this kid gets a concussion, he's more likely going to have a problem for a longer duration of time. And then we bring on the board, I'm like, okay, I get that, right? Let's analyze their spine, let's analyze their ligaments. What can we do biomechanically to reduce that? So now we're starting to capture data from body, brain, behavior, biochemistry, genetics, right, to understand where are they now? Can the things that we're doing, can it change those predispositions, right? Can it change those snippets? So I think we're in an amazing situation where, because of my background in playing sports, we're getting approaching now from, AAA hockey in Utah. We're getting approaches from high-end hockey, A hockey in British Columbia for my connections. Interesting thing is parents aren't so interested in concussion prevention. They're more interested in like, can my kid go play in the NHL?
Right. Yeah.
I was shocked by that. And then the athletes are indestructible, but now agents are interested in us because if we can show a performance package of like where they are in all these information gatherings and where they are after 2 or 3 years of implementation and correction, now their agents can go say, hey, listen, my athlete is performing at a applied biochemistry higher level than the other athlete who doesn't have any of this information. My guy's a safer bet, right? And he's worth more money at a longer duration of contract. And so now we're getting approaches from the agents saying, hey, listen, I want you to analyze our athletes. How can we do this? And I'm like, that's pretty cool.
That's amazing.
Really cool. That's really cool. I've been growing up in Canada and, all my friends playing hockey. That is the number one. It's either, are you on track for NHL or what else are you doing? Right? Like that's the divergent line.
Yeah.
But now we've got this information. The other thing I want to note is I find it so fascinating, the amount of data that you're analyzing, the packages you're putting together. We're doing the same thing in the field, at the field level. Like we're trying to be proactive with the soil health, the nutrients, the microbiology that's down there, that's affecting the nutrient components of what's being grown or raised, the animals eating it. And the more we know, the more aware we are of if that land is going to be valuable for our food corridor production, or if it can be used for something else, development or otherwise, or ecosystem. But it's the same concept. And it's kind of why Grow came around. We need to capture this data, but we need to actually allow it to be secured, some sovereignty for the farmers, so the data isn't turned around and whipped against them, which is unfortunately happening. But the correlation of, just why is that happening? And what can we do? What's the data telling us? What's the correlation? And it's a holistic picture, right? For us in the field, far too long people have just talked about NPK, the fertilizer pattern that's gone down there. We're going, okay, well, what happens with the water? And are we getting energy shocked because there's a hydroelectric system down the road from us? Is there a correlation to that in the effectiveness of the field microbiology, regardless if NPK is there or not? And so I just see the synergies between what we do in our agriculture and our health systems. Like it blows my mind some days, and it excites me. Really
so you're able to use analytics to understand what you're doing at the farming level? Is that what you're saying? Wow.
Absolutely. 100%.
So data, right?
Data.
Analyzing data to determine whether or not you're going to have an improvement in bioavailability and of the food. Yeah. I mean, what athlete wouldn't want to know that?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's amazing, Neil. So you were at the conference for just a couple of days and having that whole normal, your basics thrown out the window, feeling that difference. But some people just live their lives that way, But on that turn side, on the agricultural side, on the food production side of things, I mean, we are, our health is going to be affected by what we eat. It's the same thing for the animals. And then if we're consuming those animals, if their health is so degraded, then obviously the quality of food that we're getting is so degraded. So it really is just like this full stream of interchangeable things here that all equate to doing well, feeling good, being healthy, having a planet we can live on.
And I've gone to the nth degree. Like the bison that I source, I want to know the sire dam, the genetics that went into making, the beast that was created. I want to know the pastures they are on. I'm a little bit, you know, far gone off the edge there in terms of the amount of information I'm gathering. But I'm really paying attention to that health information in terms of what I'm eating and what I'm consuming and how that's affecting me. And then on the other side, you know, it's everything you're talking about, Dr. Robert, particularly as I'm getting back into some endurance sports. And I grew up in Whistler, so I was, you know, a skier, and I probably have sustained more concussions than I know just from.
For sure.
We didn't ski with helmets back in the day.
Or whiplashes, right?
Or whiplash, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to have some offline conversations with you. So I look forward to staying in touch and, you know, maybe another podcast in the future here. Before we start wrapping up here, I'd love to give you the floor to talk maybe about your clinic, what you're doing, where people could find you, things that you would love to share with our community and the broader audience.
Yeah, so I now own a medical diagnostics center in Salt Lake City. It's called Modern Health U. We're also doing research, so we have a research component to it. We've gotten IRBs, we're getting grant information when it comes to that. We're looking at youth athletics primarily, right? In terms of what happens to their brain and their body from a year of playing sports. So that's been happening for about 5 years now, and it's finally coming to fruition where we're analyzing my 2 kids and some other kids. So our population isn't that big, but now we're sort of changing focus on that same approach, because we want to look at, you know, who's going to be where's the value going to come when it comes to the population. So we're able to capture in the biotech research area human population. When it comes to dementia, Alzheimer's, inflammation, when it comes to universities and colleges doing research in the biotech world, that's animal studies, right? So the success rate of animal studies is about 25 to 30% transferability to the human population. So they spend a lot of money and they're not getting very much out of it. And so we're becoming extremely valuable to people, where we can now be virtual with our understanding of what data has to be captured, including genetics, to look at the injury population. Right? So someone that's in a car crash and understanding what's happening to them immediately within a 4-week period after a car crash. So you can imagine the inflammation responses of their brain, their body, their biochemistry, their behavior after something that has been detrimental to their life. They didn't want that. It was caused by somebody else. And now what happens? Right? So we're looking at that, and then we're implementing a lot of AI now, right, to understand the closed loop system with research behind it. We enter the data, and then we have this comprehensive approach of what we want to do to the people. So we capture the data and we apply a reporting system that's valuable and useful for patients that are involved in car crashes to maximize their return on that in that situation or case, which then allows them to have the money to spend to understand how to be healthy, right? So the things that you guys are doing in this population could be the back end, right? If we're not able to validate to the insurance company that want to deny and suppress, no, this is what we've actually found, right? You have to pay for what happened. And now patients are more willing because we've told them, hey, listen, part of your problem is you're overweight, right? We capture that regardless because that's part of our analysis. And so we're looking at objective analysis entwined with AI to help us create a structured approach to acute and chronic pain, which when you think about lower back pain and neck pain, there's $650 billion spent per year in America on neck pain and lower back pain. It's the most money spent in the GDP when it comes to healthcare, and there's no standardization of evaluation or care. And part of that is like I said earlier, nutrition has to play a role. Like what you're doing has to play a role. But unless you offer an objective analysis on how that can be a part of why they're not healthy and why they're not going to become healthy because their brain function is dependent on it, right? Their symptoms are dependent upon it. If we can capture that information in a fear-based situation, unfortunately, that's what's going to drive it, like what happened with COVID. People are more willing to understand, you know what, how far along this pathway do I want to go to become healthy? And because we've captured the information of why they're in pain, they're more willing to listen to us because we have an expertise in the way we live our lives and how I live my life. They believe what I have to say. So when we tell them, hey, listen, what are you putting in your body? Here's some options on where you want to go look when it comes to the food you're taking in your body. This is what I'm recommending. This is the pillow I'm recommending. This is the water I'm recommending. This is the supplements I'm recommending. Like, where do they get that information currently from the personal trainer world? How many medical doctors, are talking about this? And if they are talking about it, I was talking about this 25 years ago. Like, Amanda's aware of it. So I have a lineage, a long-term understanding of this topic, not just personally, but clinically, right? For 20 years of looking at people, looking at their nutrition, making changes, and realizing that that has to be part of it. And if it's not, then what am I doing as a doctor? Like, if I'm eating healthy and my patients are not, why am I not passing that information on to them? And now understanding what you guys are doing, that brings that to like the 10th level, the same thing that we're doing when it comes to like, why are you having a problem to the 10th level? I think that's just an amazing connection that I wasn't even aware of. So thank you.
Well,
Yeah, likewise.
And as mentioned before, we will, and as Neil just commented, there's going to be a lot of additional comments that we should have our conversations about this, because when you're getting your data, if you're able to upload that to a blockchain, nobody's going to be able to dispute your figures. It's going to only bolster the amazing work that you're doing right now, and that's one of the reasons we're doing that in agriculture. If you're needing to buy organic meats, we'll show us that whole line, prove it, basically, and that's what the chain allows you to do. So we'll have some more conversations on that too.
And that's super valuable in the PI world because people like to lie, right?
Exactly.
And the insurance companies like to say, well, how do we know this wasn't edited? How do we have proof on it? So I kind of dug into the blockchain a little bit because obviously I have no idea about that because, that's not my world. I was like, this is super valuable. Like, I can get how I can use this, right?
Absolutely. And don't
So
worry.
we're just starting off. This is 20 plus years of me understanding this, utilization of how amazing AI can be when you have a better conversation with it and how to utilize it. And we're doing some amazing things. We're catching steam here, and we plan to be on a national state pretty soon. And that's where sort of our goal is. And we don't have any competition. Like, no one is doing what we're doing. And the people that are doing it, we're backed by research and universities and biotech. And so that's kind of interesting and cool. And I never thought I'd be here. I'm glad I'm no longer treating patients, to be honest with you, because I can offset that to a lot of other people that are starting off in their careers and help them get along their careers and make sure they're successful.
Well, you're making me want to come see you and
re-looked
at, just so you know. So you might get one patient.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, we still have a clinic here. My business partner still has a clinic. He's been a doctor for 30 years, so we do have all the ability to capture objective data, including digital motion X-ray posture. But Amanda, the stuff that we're doing now is like 10x what we were doing when it was in Los Angeles. Like, it's not even the same thing anymore. We technology and advancements in capturing information has blown. And I think it's been beneficial since being able to think and look outside the box of, being curious, right? Like, just questioning everything and realizing, like, why is it this way? And it doesn't have to be this way. So the louder we are, the more we'll get attention and attraction. And, I've been lucky to be able to get my voice across in writing probably 150 Substack articles when it comes to biomechanics and sports. And nobody's talking about this stuff. Like, it's just, Neil, when it comes to hockey, like, that guy taught that guy taught that guy taught that guy 30 years 100%. Ago on how to do something, and they have no background in biomechanics. They're still teaching the same junk. I'm like, you guys are pathetic, like, at best, right? So I don't have a lot of fans, to be honest with you, when it comes to the hockey world. And then I have a couple because they understand when I talk to them, it goes over to their head. I'm like, maybe that guy should be on our team. I'm like, cool, we'll be on your team.
Yeah, just takes a few. Well, listen, I want to thank you both very much for being on the show here, and to our audience, which is a global audience, by the way. Dr. Robert and Amanda knows that. We'll start wrapping up here, and we'll get this episode will be out next week. And so for our audience, if you have any questions, you want to reach out to Amanda, you want to reach out to Dr. Robert, have some discussions, you know how to connect to us, but we'll also put some links down below here. And we look forward to fielding your questions and then furthering our conversation. Robert, thanks again. Amanda,
thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Have a great day.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you both for the opportunity. Thank you, gentlemen.